Hey everybody! So today we're going to be continuing on about how to maybe, possibly, actually use the Galactic Center in chart reading. Some ways this is part 3 now. There might be a part 4, I don't know. I know there will definitely be a video using an example or examples of how to read this in a chart. Some ways you could go with it. There'll be one video like that. That'll be the last one I do. But this is just going to kind of be a continuation on about how to incorporate this into chart weaving. Some ideas, some thoughts. Definitely play around with it yourself, with your own chart or somebody else's, and see what fits, see what doesn't. See if it applies, you know, all of those kinds of things. I want to start out with the disclaimer that I am not a Galactic Center expert. I do feel like at this point I have a pretty decent handle on, somewhat decent handle on how the GC functions from a scientific point of view and from a astrological one. I feel like I do. But again, I'm not an expert, so I do reserve the right to find any or all of this wrong later on. I am literally just fucking with astrology, but I think it was time to start bringing some ideas together and actually making some videos about how to read with it. Oh, and just for, I'm going to say planets a lot, but when I say planets, like a planet conjunct the GC, a planet opposing the GC, I'm talking, so I don't have to keep saying everything. I'm going to say planets, but when I say planets, know that I'm meaning planets, Chiron, the major angles, the north and south node, north and or south node, everything that was looked at in the research. Okay, know that that's what I mean when I say planets. It just takes a long time to say all of that shit. So, and saying it multiple times will eat up time in the video. So, when I say planets, that's what I mean. Okay, so in the last video we ended at talking about conjunctions to the Anticenter. Now, I want to continue on with that a little bit. First part of the video, we talked about conjunctions to the Galactic Center, just the Galactic Center. This video, and then towards the end of that video, we talked about conjunctions to the Anticenter. We're going to continue on there and talk about what to actually do with that, right? Because if you've got conjunctions to the GC, there's a lot of energy there by that planet. It's still going to shock the Anticenter, even if there's nothing there. So what do you do with that energy? Same thing on the other end of things. When you have a conjunction to the Anticenter, nothing conjunct the Galactic Center, you still need to be able to ground that energy, right? Because the GC still exists regardless if there's a conjunction or not. So obviously here you would want to, I would say, look for the trines. The trines here, I'm casting a wide net. Again, with the trines, there's a wide net. I would say, 10 degrees applying or separating from the GC. That's roughly 16 degrees Leo to 6 degrees Virgo, 16 degrees Aries to 6 degrees Taurus. Though that trine is going to be what grounds the shocking. I do think it will be what grounds the shocking from the Anticenter. I also think it is, on the other side of things, it is a good translator for the shit at the GC. Now, even if you've just got a conjunction to the Anticenter, right, and there's no conjunction to the GC, there is still stuff to translate. And I almost think the trine in this case might be slightly more important, because if there's no conjunction to the GC, but there is a conjunction to the Galactic Anticenter, that planet, like I mentioned in the last video, is I do think it's getting damaged. It's getting struck. It's getting damaged. So having something to ground that planet is very important. I feel like something to function as a grounding force for the planet. I think that's really important here. I think it's also important to have a trine when you've got something conjunct the Galactic Center, but If you just have a conjunction to the anticenter, I do feel like that is that sextile, the sextile to the galactic anticenter, that actually functions as, I feel like that helps mitigate some of the damage. It might. If there is no sextile to the galactic anticenter, but there's a conjunction there, you know, at the galactic anticenter, I feel like that planet is just getting hit, and there's just getting damaged, and there's nothing to ground it. On the opposite end of things, if you have a planet conjunct the galactic center, and you have no trine to the galactic center, you have no clear way, or what seems like no clear way, no clear planet to be a vehicle to translate what's at all the energy at the galactic center. But the galactic anticenter is still getting shocked, right, from that overflow of energy. Now, I do actually feel like when you don't have a planet conjunct the galactic center, but you do have a planet conjunct the anticenter, I almost feel like it gets shocked even more frequently since there's nothing there to absorb it. So I do think, you know, the sextile to the galactic anticenter, the trine to the galactic center, it just feels very important. Now, in some charts, this does not exist. Often in the research, most people do have this, do have something there. But if it doesn't exist, my advice here, if you're looking at a chart and the person does not have a trine, their Jupiter and their Mercury probably become very important, even if they don't have anything to do with the galactic center or anticenter. Even if they're not retrograde, either one of them, even if they're direct, their Jupiter and their Mercury feel like they become very, very important, and are probably the way it's translated best. Now, I'm going to say something, and I don't want it to be confusing. I do think that Jupiter retrograde has an affinity for the galactic center. I do think Mercury retrograde has an affinity for the galactic anticenter. Or rather, we'll just say Jupiter. I do think the retrograde motions have more of an affinity for this galactic center and the galactic anticenter. I just do. I do think they do. But Jupiter in general is going to have more of an affinity with the galactic center because galactic center is in Sagittarius. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Galactic anticenter is going to have more of an affinity for Mercury because anticenter is in Gemini and Mercury rules Gemini. Now, if you have a conjunction to the galactic center, but no conjunction to the anticenter, I almost feel like you need to this person, right, this person really needs to understand their Mercury. Really, really needs to understand their Mercury. And they need to, in that area of life where the anticenter falls, they almost need to think about things from a Mercury retrograde point of view. Now, if the person already has the Mercury retrograde in their chart, this probably helps them translate. But they need to function where the galactic anticenter is from an almost Mercury retrograde point of view. And that means they need to break down that area of life piece by piece. Like, they can already see the big picture thing might not be so hard for these people, especially if they have Jupiter retrograde. But the area of life where the galactic center galactic anticenter falls by house, and any planet that, or I guess in this example there's no planet there, just by area of life, they really do need to try to tune out any noise and really try to put things together piece by piece. Really put them together piece by piece. Take small pieces together. Don't get overwhelmed, but take small pieces together in that area of life, piece by piece. That would be my advice for somebody who has a conjunction to the Galactic Center, no trying to translate. It would be my advice for them to do this, Jupiter retrograde or not. This would be my advice as a way for them to translate. And to look at the area of life by house where the galactic anticenter falls and function from a more Mercury retrograde point of view. And to also become very comfortable with their own Mercury, natal Mercury, in their chart. And understand that fucker like the back of their hand. Definitely. That way, I feel like that would allow them, it might not ground in quite the same way as like having a sextile to the anticenter and a trine to the galactic center would do, but I do think that it does help them in the translation and the grounding. I think it does. I think it can kind of function as like a de facto grounder or translator. Now, if the person say has a conjunction to the galactic anticenter, they have no sextile to the galactic center. Sorry, so no sextile. Yeah, no sextile there. No, you know what I'm talking about. No sextile in the windows that I'm talking about before. And they don't have a conjunction to the galactic center. I think it's probably really important because these people are getting shocked, right? And they have no grounding force if the sextile is lacking. They have no way to translate anything at the GC, even though there's not a planet there in this example. You know, they still need to, the translation of that energy still would matter here because of the grounding needing to be the sextile needing to ground. I feel like that makes Jupiter in their natal chart pretty important. Whether that's Jupiter direct or retrograde, I think Jupiter becomes pretty important. Understanding your own natal Jupiter is important. I would also almost say to function, to think about the area of life where the galactic center falls in a more Jupiter RX way. Now, if you already have Jupiter RX in your chart, you already probably do this. But if you don't, I feel like try to really see the big picture in that area of life, wherever Jupiter falls in the chart. Try to really see that area of life from a more intuitive, big picture. I think that's probably key. I think that's probably key, a big part of when you don't have a conjunction to the galactic center, but you do have conjunctions or a conjunction to the anticenter. Trying to function from a more Jupiter retrograde point of view in the house where the GC falls is probably very, very important. Trying to change the lens more that way. That probably is able to help act as a translator and even as a grounding force. Because if you're able to see the bigger picture in the area of life, right, from an intuitive angle, if you're able to see the bigger picture from a from an intuitive place in the area of life where the GC is, it might help make sense of why the planet at the Galactic Center sustained so much damage. It might help you to see why, or to understand better why. I could see that being very important. Both of those being very important in those cases. And again, kind of acting as a de facto trine to the Galactic Center or sextile to the Anticenter. Definitely know your Jupiter, what your Jupiter is doing in your natal chart, and try to function more from a Jupiter retrograde point of view in the areas of life by house where the Galactic Center falls in the chart. I would certainly do that. Let me think, was there anything else I wanted to cover in this video? No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good for now. I'm gonna make another one. I think so. Yeah. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck with Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Maternal Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever people do on YouTube, you can search for us by searching for Let's Fuck with Astrology. In the future, not right now, but in the future, these longer videos, the whole videos will be moved to YouTube. In the future, I mean, the ones that are on Instagram will stay on Instagram, but in the future, the long versions of the videos will be solely on YouTube. So if you don't already follow us over there and you watch these, I would definitely do that. The little short snippets will still be on Instagram, but I think the whole videos will end up going to YouTube eventually. If you do the Reddit thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.